Empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go. Welcome to the Scoop World Order Phenom edition. We, it's the off season. We're trying to provide some content that's a little outside of the box, a little different. This is one, a lot of credit to Nevadabuck on this one. We might have unearthed a future gem and a kid that loves Ohio State. He's a freak show, an absolute freak of nature. Dez Jones is a guy that, he picked up a Penn State offer today, and he already has Ole Miss. He just turned 14, so he is a freak of nature. Super excited about this kid. But this is gonna be an interesting episode because I think that this kid is gonna be one of those kids that right now, Ohio State could go on him at any minute. And by the end of the camp season, a kid going into his sophomore year is probably going to be offered by everybody in the country because he's that good. So stay tuned. And if you're enjoying this content, we've been cranking these every day. We love doing them. They're a blast. But you can help us out if you click on the subscribe button, give us a like, leave some comments. We appreciate you guys so much. Our channel, again, is exploding. It's been great. And I know that this is kind of the dead of the winter. It's like we're getting into spring. Spring football is like 2 weeks away, so it's like we're almost there. We see the light at the end of the tunnel. So we appreciate your support on these videos. We've been really growing it and doing great. The Brandon Innes video did great yesterday. So again, we appreciate you guys. So I'm gonna bring in Nevada Dez Jones. We don't really talk about kids that are this young just because there's always burnout. There's always we got to get a little closer to realism, but Dez Jones is a phenom. Tell me about some of the phenoms that you've heard of in recruiting, kids that were maybe freshmen, sophomores. I think of Jamario O'Neal, who got offered before his sophomore year back in, 05, that was probably the earliest offer in Ohio State history at the time. But, give me some stories on some phenoms that you've covered that were, 14 years old and you knew they were Ohio State type players.
Well, I'll give you the one that kind of reminds me the most of Dez Jones, and that's Ted Ginn. I mean, Ted Ginn was a guy that Ohio State was in on early. Obviously, there's a relationship there with Dad. They're at Glenville, and Teddy was kind of a legend up in that area from the time he was 5 years old. So, Ohio State was in on the kid early. Everybody was in on him. There was a question whether he was going to be an Olympic low hurdler at some point. Well, Des, when I got this information from my East Coast contact, let's just say, and he's like, look, I got a kid that we always joke about these 20, 35 recruits and, they have every school in the country interested or whatever it might be. But this is one that you really want to pay attention to, Nevada, because this is a guy that's got legitimate Ohio State interest. And he's also got a legitimate chance to be the number one player in the country at his position. And not many people know about him right now. So I started pulling up the tape, making some calls, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And the best thing about this kid, as you mentioned earlier before, he's 14 years old. I mean, he's underage for his. I mean, a lot of these kids are held back, and they're older kids playing. He's underage for his grade, and just doing ridiculous things at a young age. And I can't wait to show some of the highlights because he's played some of the better competition on the East Coast and tore it up as a 13-year-old, and that just doesn't happen.
Yeah, and another thing you mentioned is he's super tight with Rocket Ronnie Hickman. So they went to DePaul Catholic, which is a powerhouse in Jersey. And these guys play the real deal. They play Bosco, Bergen Catholic. I mean, these guys play the powerhouses of New Jersey, and I actually put his stat line up on the film because, his coming out party against all teams in the country that you could have a coming out party as a 13-year-old wide receiver, 6 for 93 at Don Bosco Prep. And you see something like that from a kid that young against a team that good in a game that was 17-14. Like, these weren't garbage time touches. This is like he's the guy in a major game. And, I thought that was astounding. And when you talk about phenoms, like there's some guys, like Maurice Claret to me, like by the time he was a sophomore, I'll never forget, I was a freshman and I was playing freshman football. I wasn't even on JV or varsity. And we actually drove, me and my one of my best friends who's a captain with me on the football team in high school, drove to Warren to watch the Perry Panthers play Warren Harding. And we watched a running back who was a sophomore who looked like, like Jim Brown, like an NFL player. And it was Reese. And at the time, like, I didn't know who he was. I didn't know anything about him. I just knew that, sometimes you see guys and they're just different. It's like seeing like LeBron in high school. Like there's certain guys you see because LeBron's my age, went to Akron St. V. I'm from Canton. So, they played at Massillon. They played the Massillon Tigers. And some guys are just different, and this kid has potential to be different because when you're that young and you're playing at that level, and he didn't get a ton of playing time because he plays big time ball at a big time program, and he's a 13-year-old. So I mean, it's you're not going to get a ton of burn, but he had 20 catches, had his coming out party against Bosco. But this is the kind of kid. It's always kind of fun to project who could be the guys that blow up once they hit camp. As they get stronger, faster. They start to hit puberty. These guys, they sprout up a little bit. They get a little stronger. And just excited about this one because I think that this is one that, Penn State went on. I think that Ohio State could go on this kid at any day. I know that Ohio State has huge interest in this kid. So we're going to get into the tape on this one because, we can talk as much as we want about it, but, we get into some of this film against Bosco and it's something special. So Nevada, this very first play, I mean, the kid's showing up at Bosco. It's always fun when they put the school name in the end zone because it makes it nice and easy to see, with the big Bosco. And so that this is one of the probably the biggest game of the year for these guys. And and he's out here and the kid's not afraid. They put him as the single receiver to the left, short side of the field. Usually that's the X where he likes to go, and right over the middle, first play of the game.
Yeah, well, you see that a lot with him. He likes to go over the middle. He's not afraid to go over the middle. He catches the back of the ball, and he plays defense as well. Can play defensive back. Not afraid of contact. Loves to block. But watch again. Takes those things right to the middle. Just totally unafraid. And that's what you need, those big time wide receivers. And to see it for somebody that young is really, really rare.
Yeah, I mean, again, he's 13. Like, I mean, I couldn't believe when I found out that he wasn't even a 14-year-old. I mean, usually 13-year-olds they're playing 8th grade football, and this kid's playing varsity against some of the best competition in Jersey. And great ball skills, tracks the ball, not cross the middle of the field, not scared. I don't want to say he reminds me of Michael Thomas just because he's wearing 13, because that's like a lazy take, but the kid catches the ball with his hands. This is a great one right here. Foot in the ground, makes the guy miss. The guys, you see the black dots flying up when the guy. This is the best when you put your foot in the ground, the guy goes flying by, and then all of a sudden, right here, he hits him with his dead leg right here. Dude goes flying, slides. Like that's a gorgeous move for such a young kid. It's amazing. More Bosco. This is incredible. Another one. I mean, like, not to be like too crazy, but like, you imagine like what kind of athlete you were as a 13-year-old. I mean, most of us were playing 8th grade basketball, or maybe playing 8th grade football. This kid's playing against Don Bosco Prep, and he's the featured receiver this game.
Yeah, but this is why Ohio State's so excited about this kid. They've been kind of keeping this excitement in their pocket, but this is a kid that you're going to be hearing a lot about. And I don't want to have a repeat of the Danny Clark situation where Ohio State offers a freshman, and by his senior year he was erasing his Ohio State tattoo. But this is a guy that Ohio State wants to get in front of this recruitment, and I'm telling you, by the time he's a senior, he's going to be a 5-star consensus top 5 player in the country. He's that good. He's a special talent, and a kid we're really excited about.
Yeah, and from what we know and have been told, Penn State went on him today, but Ohio State's his favorite school. He loves, like I said, he loves Ronnie Hickman, he loves the offense, loves what we do. We play young receivers. He's going to have a great quarterback. And again, this is so far in the future, but I mean, again, imagine what this kid's going to look like this year as a sophomore. I mean, this is a 13-year-old playing varsity football, and he's just not scared. I mean, he's talking trash. He's got a lot of energy, and it's across the middle of the field, no fear. Great. I mean, and his routes are advanced for his age. I mean, this guy puts his foot in the ground, man, and he's freaky.
Well, and
slant.
he's not done growing yet. Like he's grown an inch and added 15 pounds in last year, and they don't think he's done yet. So, he's going to be one of those big, rangy wide receivers that can play inside, can play outside, can go over the top, and can really do it all. But he like I said, he loves to play defense as well. And I love those guys that love to play both ways because that they're tough, and this kid's tough as nails.
Yeah, and he could end up a corner just as easily. But it's the offensive awareness and the headiness here. Scramble drill, the protection breaks down, quarterback is flush. He's running a slant, but then all of a sudden he looks back at the quarterback's scramble drill time. So he breaks out, gets open, makes the play. I mean, again, for a kid that young to have that kind of awareness and that headiness is unbelievable. Yeah, I just I mean, it's just silly, but we always like to try to find the guys that are the next ones because a lot of the guys that are going into their junior year, even a lot of the guys into their the seniors are already done, going to their junior year. I mean, pretty much uncovered, but this is a kid that he is about to explode once the camp scene starts because you see it every year. You see these kids that they've got the measurables, they've got the production, he's putting in the work, loves the game. And it's just like to be this young, it's still mind-boggling to me that he played varsity football as a 13-year-old at the level that he did. And again, like he's not just running, go routes. Like he's running over the middle. He's getting hit by kids that are 18. And it's just, it's exciting that this kid's got a real shot at being a Buckeye because he loves Ohio State. And it's the Ronnie Hickman thing is real. I think anytime a kid goes from your high school and has success like Ronnie has, like Rocket has, it kind of is like it's like paving asphalt on the road to that school, because you want to, it's like get that pipeline going. And, if a kid like Rocket is like, Ohio State's amazing, it's awesome, that does nothing but help us. And then you throw in Ryan Day's offense, the way we recruit quarterbacks, the way we play young receivers, like, I think that this kid's going to be he's going to be a freak if he ends up on offense, because here he is playing corner, and it's
What
a lot of these. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say it's fun because last night we were able to look at Cornell Tate and Brandon Ennis, and we just enjoyed the years of Olave and Garrett Wilson and Jackson Smith and Jigba and Amika and Marvin Harrison and Julian Fleming and Jaden Ballard and all these incredible wide receivers, and this might be the next one. And it's fun to see that because for years Ohio State, you'd have the occasional great wide receiver, but we weren't really known as wide receiver U. And now all of a sudden, the fact that we're becoming this preferred destination for all these elite wide receivers, it's such a sea change in terms of being an Ohio State fan that it's almost surreal, to be honest.
Yeah, and this is another scramble drill again. The offensive intelligence at this age is something else. Again, breakdown in the protection, back gets kind of run over, right tackle, a little bit of pressure, rolls out, changes route, does the scramble drill, goes to the pylon, gets open, catches the ball, gets it in the zone. And I mean, that's not typical for a kid his age. So we've already seen these. I'll let this run while we talk for a second. But yeah, it was interesting. Today, the NFL Combine press conferences kicked off today, and Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson were both there. And it's amazing that, you think about the receivers we've put into the league over the last 5 to 7 years, the Terry McLaurin's, Michael Thomas, KJ Hill, like these kids that have been super productive. We haven't had a first round pick at receiver in 15 years. Teddy and Gonzo. So, I mean, that's wild. That's something that I guess you don't ever think about it because, Michael Thomas should have been a first round pick. The Browns took Corey Coleman, which is why they're the Browns, and, they don't win anything. But I was stunned by that. And obviously this year they're probably going to have two, unless something traumatic happens with Chris Olave, he'll make it. I'm sure Garrett Wilson will make it. And, but now it's like you look at the pipeline of guys that are in that receiving room to the first round, and you've got Jackson Smith and Jigba, Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka, you're gonna have the freshman coming in, potentially Jaden Ballard. It's crazy the level of talent that we've had, that Brian Hartline's collected in that room, and he's refined and he's developed. And I think that when you're you're taking A+ prospects and you're turning them into A++ first rounders like Brian's doing. That's how you get, kids like Dez Jones to come from New Jersey and join, Zone 6. And but could you believe it's been 15 years since we had a first round wide receiver in Nevada?
Well, I just think it's always wild thinking about Ted Ginn because Ted. First of all, there was a lot of questions whether or not he was going to be a productive NFL player, and the conventional wisdom was if he survived the NFL for 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, it was going to be as a return guy, like almost like a Devin Hester, and
Mhm.
and as great a returner as he was, and he's one of the greatest returners ever at Ohio State, if not the greatest. I mean, he didn't return kicks. I mean, he was the last man standing from that Ohio State team in the NFL. I mean, how many years did Teddy play in the NFL? 12, 13, something crazy like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
And
14 years. Yeah,
14 years, and
yeah,
primarily, I don't think he returned kicks other than part time after his first 5 years in the league. So
yeah.
it was so funny to see him do that because I would have never guessed that. I would have never guessed that. I would have never guessed that the greatest kick returner of all time at Ohio State would be a productive NFL wide receiver for 14 years because that's rare air.
Yeah, I mean, and when you've got that one rare trait where you can run past guys, people can always use you. But I think the biggest problem with Ted is, he was in a situation in Miami where I don't think they believed in him. I don't think they thought he was tough enough, so they gave up on him really early. They traded him to San Francisco, it was hilarious because my rookie year I was with him in Miami, and then my second year I was with him in San Francisco, and it's like, I love Teddy is one of the kindest, nicest kids you'd ever meet, one of the best players in school history, and it really wasn't until Sean Payton gave him a shot to actually play receiver in New Orleans, because I think Teddy kind of got pigeonholed into just being a punt returner and a kick returner. And it's like, when you're kind of put into that little box, then you don't really get a chance to go run routes with the first string. And then all of a sudden, Drew Brees starts throwing him deep shots, and he's hitting these long touchdowns, 70-yard touchdowns, and he was a viable kind of third wide receiver for a little bit in fantasy football because you were hoping he hit a 70-yard touchdown. And it was just one of those things where I was happy he finally got a chance to play receiver. And, he did some work in Carolina. He kind of bounced around as with the Bears, Cardinals. I mean, he was kind of a bit of a nomad, but he had a little run there where he was really doing good. And he was with Cam too. Cam threw him some deep shots, and it was impressive. Like the Saints had that little run, and they still have a lot of Buckeyes now, but they were collecting Buckeyes, and they all turned into really good players, which was great. Yeah, this kid's going to be something else. So I'm excited. I
Yeah,
hope he comes to camps because I think it'd be great to see him come camp at Ohio State this year.
yeah, he's gonna be fun. He's gonna be fun, and this is one like I said, we don't do this often. People know that follow us on this stuff. We do not talk about underclassmen very often, but this is one that Ohio State fans want to pay attention to, and know the name.
Yeah, because if there isn't legitimate, like rock solid, interest where we're considered the favorites, like we're not going to bring this up, because it's not worth our time. But this kid's different. So and he's a ways away, but it's going to be fun because I think once this kid hits campuses and hits the camp scene and goes to Clemson and Bama and Ohio State, like they're all going to offer him because they're going to have to. Because if Penn State and Ole Miss are going on this kid and he's 14, then you can't wait too long. That's kind of how recruiting is because these kids always remember, how long it took you to decide that you were good enough to play for them. So, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Ohio State offered in the next month, just based off of Penn State going today. And I think that they'll do it, and they'll be very happy campers because he's a grinder. He's a great kid, works really hard, tough as nails, and his upside is just absolutely tremendous. So with that, Nevada, I appreciate you. We'll probably do some combine stuff tomorrow just because the NFL combine is going to be in prime time tomorrow night. You're going to see the receivers run their 40s. So there's going to be a lot of interest in what Chris Olave hits. Obviously, Garrett Wilson, people are expecting him to run around the 4.5s or so. And I don't think, I don't know if Ruck's going to work out. I think Ruck said he had plantar fasciitis, so he's going to sit out the drills and just do bench press. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to watch the combine tomorrow night. So, what are you looking forward to the combine tomorrow night, Nevada?
Well, you mentioned I'm looking forward to Olave running the 40. I just want to see what he runs, how fast he can go, and You know, I kind of hope he runs slow so that a bunch of stupid NFL teams pass on him, because it's a guy that is going to be a productive NFL wide receiver, and I'm hoping he falls to the Packers at the end of the first round, and that they have to take a weapon for Rodgers. That's my dream, dare to dream.
So they can take another quarterback. They take a kicker
They
in
can
the first
draft,
round.
yeah, exactly, or trade for Baker Mayfield. Either way.
Yes, draft Jordan Love over T. Higgins. That one, yeah, I remember draft night. I was texting you. I was like, "Oh my god, you guys can get T. Higgins. Like that's gonna be amazing." And then, no, they get Jordan Love. Guy can watch and put an earpiece in for 3 years while Rodgers is the MVP of the league. Yeah, it was pretty amazing. But to wrap this thing up, this has been great, man. I'm excited about this kid. I think that people are gonna be really excited to see what this kid can do. But this is gonna be a good one. So, in closing, Scoop family, we are growing like crazy. If you want to join the #1 inside information site on the internet for Ohio State football, join BuckeyeScoop.com. Our boards are incredibly active. We are getting new information every day. Spring ball starts in 2 weeks, and it's just a great community. I've made so many of my best friends from the community. People are ultra supportive. They're just good people, and I think you'd really enjoy it. So if you or someone who is a huge Ohio State fan and you want to give them the best thing possible for their fan experience, join BuckeyeScoop.com. We appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bucks.